Well, hello, my precious friends. Yes, it's me, Bro Heath, and we're going to go down the rabbit hole in just a little bit of an adventure down the rabbit hole because a lot of you kind of poo poo me for being one of these conspiracy theory nuts, right? Nut jobs. But I don't consider myself a conspiracy theorist. I consider myself a conspiracy realist because I do a lot of research and I don't just take the surface information that we get from CNN or the mainstream media and just buy it hook, line, and sinker and just propagate that material as if it is the um, word from God. Because I have a relationship with God, and God's Holy Spirit shows me that there is so much corruption and deception in the world. And I've, through the years, been able to discern a lot of things with the help of the Holy Spirit, of course. But back in February and March, when this scandemic or plandemic or whatever you want to call it, COVID-19 pandemic, actually began, I was reading a lot of reports and I was telling people, hey, wait a second. I think this pandemic is manufactured. And here's my reasoning. Well, it's come out recently, and you can find all these reports online. Just type in uh, coronavirus test kits contaminated or something like that, and you'll come up with a lot of different articles. But here's one. Exclusive internal HHS investigation finds the CDC early test kits were contaminated. And it goes on to say that they shipped the CDC defective coronavirus test kits to public health laboratories all across the country and also hospitals and other places. And let me tell you what they were doing. These laboratories were coming back to the CDC and saying, hey, we've got a lot of false positives here. As a matter of fact, we've taken control samples just using water, just plain old water, and it was coming back as false positives for the coronavirus. Well, then the CDC, we must have made a mistake. Oh, there's a problem with the manufacturing, and they recalled some. And then we have another. Here's one from just the state of Washington, an article that the state recalls 12,000 COVID-19 test kits due to possible contamination. And the thing about these PCR test kits, what I've told in the very beginning, was that they're highly sensitive tests that are supposed to find the genetic markers of the COVID-19 genetic markers in your sample and match it up or whatever, right? This is really not a very good method of testing because it's highly susceptible to contamination and to just error and lots and lots of false positives. As a matter of fact, some doctors and professionals will say up to 50% false positives, and even more as you can dial up the sensitivity of the test and make it 75 to 90% false positives. And of course, you have already an inept, wicked, money-driven, corrupt medical establishment that gets money for every COVID diagnosis they get, and so it's a lot more money into their coffers if they do give a lot of false positives out, and that's the truth. And so, but let me ask you this: why would the CDC, a very professional and supposed to be very honorable, I mean, here we are trusting these people with our lives, would send out all these contaminated and very false positive resulting test kits? Well, just as I have shared before, because this is not a real pandemic, it's a manufactured pandemic, and a plandemic, a scandemic, or whatever you want to call it. And the only way you can get the ball rolling on a pandemic is you got to have a lot of people coming down with the coronavirus very quickly. And so in the initial stages, this is what the CDC did to get those numbers up. Okay. And that's still happening, folks, around the country, even in this so-called second wave and all this. There's a lot of deception going on, folks. But let me also confirm another thing that I shared back in February and March. And I don't take any credit, but I know the Holy Spirit within me shows me things. And we are at the actual CDC, Centers for Disease Control website, okay? We're going to hear it out of the horse's mouth. But back in February and March, I was telling people that my studies and research showed that much of the other false positives, or what I would call false positives, maybe they're real positives, but they were due not to people having this new mutated COVID-19 coronavirus, but that these test kits were so sensitive, and that they were, they can't be, they can't isolate it to the degree that you think they can, that these test kits would bring back positive results from anybody who ever had a cold in any other time, in their past. They could have those certain genetic markers and materials in their as a sample in their samples, whether it's a spit sample or a nasal sample or whatever, blood sample. And here we go. I just want to read something that just floored me to the bone here. So at the CDC website, you can just scroll down and then you come to what do the results mean if you test positive. Now let me read this to you slowly. A positive test result shows you may have antibodies from an infection with the virus that causes COVID-19. That's okay. But check this one out. However, there is a chance a positive result means that you have antibodies from an infection with the virus from the same family of viruses called coronaviruses, such as the ones that cause the common cold. Right there. Hide the truth in plain sight. They like to do that. And I guess they don't think that people can think for themselves, or, that we're just so dumbed down nowadays with our sitcoms that we can't, add two and two together or connect the dots. But here we have the CDC openly telling us that these tests can bring a false positive if you've ever had the common cold. And I don't know anybody that's never had a common cold. So yes, many of us can get a false positive if we ever had the cold. And I'm not just saying that. The CDC is saying it. You can go right up here to the same web link right here, cdc.gov/2019-ncov/serology-overview.html, and see for yourself. Okay? So I told you so, and Jesus told you so, because I really believe that the Lord shows me these things. God bless you. We'll talk to you later.